Jesus sits at the right hand of God the Father. So at his right hand is Jesus Christ. There's Yahweh, Jesus Christ, and then at Christ's right hand is the Blessed Mother. Here, of course, once upon a time, the king was David, and Bathsheba always sat at his right hand. Now, at this point, Solomon has become king, and now Bathsheba still sits at the right hand of the king. Man, I know it's been a while since I recorded a YouTube video, but here I am. Today, I am in sunny Florida, and I'm just going to do a rant. I'm going to speak on a number of different topics. Probably record a few different videos. Hopefully the sound comes out good. In my last video, I took the kids out on a day trip. Spent the night up north. Great times. We experienced some extraordinary parts of Michigan. You know, there was a lot of hills driving up and down through the central part of Michigan, the northern part of Michigan. Just a beautiful scenery. Seeing the wind turbines, the open road, a lot of valleys, which is unique in Michigan because, you know, we don't get to see a lot of mountains and valleys until we get down into that West Virginia, Tennessee area, you know, and the valleys and things, they come when we drive through Kentucky and stuff like that. But I think it's unique for the children to experience a lot of that because a lot of people think that traveling is getting on a plane. And like, ironically, last year, the kids in one day literally rode a plane, a train, a subway, and a bus all in the same day. I needed to cut off a lot of distractions. I'm spending way too much time on TikTok. I got my Instagram set for 30 minutes a day. I got my TikTok set for 3.5 hours. I'm trying to channel a lot of people more towards this platform, which is YouTube. Not because I think it's a better place, but because there's a lot of controversial things that are happening with TikTok that I feel I don't have control over, and a lot of other creators don't either. I've been getting a lot of spam calls. Quite a bit of spam calls. I mean, like up to as many as 6 a day. Sometimes it's 3 or 4. Of course, it's all in the middle of the day. Most of the time is when I'm at work between the hours of 3 and 6. It's just crazy. But yeah, here I am going on this tangent. So I want to talk about a few things. One, I'm going to talk about this deal that's been going on with the rosary. I don't know where it came from. I haven't done the research, and I'm not looking into where it came from just yet. I may. But usually something has to grow legs for me to actually do a lot of research on it. So sometimes I can have a natural reaction to it, but more often than not, I often have no reaction because fly-by-night news, I usually just let it fly away. I've gone deeper into the rosary ever since I started working in Lansing. I've probably said the rosary every single time I drive to work. And now I'm actually saying it on the way home from work. I'm up to about 2 a day, at least when I'm working. During the weekends, I wasn't saying the rosary at all, but now I am. I did the novena to Our Lady Undoer of Knots, and my specific prayer was answered. days after. I'm still in the process of computing all of that. I don't know exactly how much I'm going to actually use of this, but my annulment is technically complete. But that gave me a new element to the rosary and how important it is to say it on a daily basis. I've heard it, but I've just had a vague belief in how powerful this weapon is. It's like no other at this point. But I think us as Christians, and especially Catholics, our prayer life is not expounded upon like it actually should be. Like, if we spent as much time and dedication to our prayer as we do all of these other elements, like I said, spending 3 hours on TikTok is ridiculous. Whether you on live or you just actually creating content, it's not paying us. So why put this entertainment of social media before our prayer life? God should be the first person we talk to in the morning and the last person we talk to at night. But my prayer life has changed. It's really changed. It's changed to the point where, yes, I do have check marks in my to-do list every day. It does center me back into focus, Living in a secular world, working a secular job, I may miss things. There was times when I was going through the separation and divorce that I struggled physically, mentally, and emotionally. But my prayer life was probably the most solid at that time. I want my prayer life to be solid in good times and in bad. I really do. Like, I don't want to slip. But like in the moment, I just wind up hesitating. It's getting better, but I take a lot of things for granted. The fact that I desire to have a home for me and my kids and to have a good credit score in order to be eligible for the resources that are necessary, or just to have this comfort that I really desire of security that we all as people have. We all have the desire for security. We all have the desire for security. But unfortunately, we have other desires as well. So, to tell a story, I was riding to work one day, and I can't remember if it was like the daily readings or, our daily bread. It was one of them. I came across the reading in 1 Kings, and I'm just going to read it. When Solomon was king and his relationship with Bathsheba, 1 Kings 2:19. This is where it starts. Then Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah, and the king stood up and met her and paid her homage. Then he sat down upon his throne, and a throne was provided for the king's mother, who sat at his right. She said, "There is one small favor I would ask of you. Do not refuse me." The king said to her, "Ask it, my mother, for I will not refuse you." So she said, "Let Abishag the Shunammite be given to your brother Adonijah to be his wife." King Solomon answered his mother, "And why do you ask that Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah? Ask the kingship for him as well, for he is my older brother. Ask for him for Abiathar the priest, for Joab, son of Zeruiah." And the king Solomon swore by the Lord, "May God do thus to me and more." So I was riding to work one day and I heard these verses, and it struck me how the reverence of the queen was given, especially from the king. The king being representative, of course, as soon to be Jesus Christ eventually. But it brought me to tears. It brought me to tears because during that time I had not given Mary her just due. You know, as a Catholic, she was there. She was a part of my life. And I really didn't understand the fullness of her power until I read this, until I heard this. I'm on my way to work. I've already said my rosary, so I believe. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I said it after. But like understanding that and the king stood up and met her and paid her homage. The king gave homage to the queen. Of course, Bathsheba's queen at this point in time. Him standing up is a level of respect. Now, I watched a series some time ago called Mad Men. It was based in the 60s. And every time a woman entered a room, the men would stand up. And I thought that showed reverence and respect to a woman. But again, this is Bathsheba. Solomon is actually king. That's the way to look at this. So as we read further, then he sat down upon his throne, and a throne was provided for the king's mother. Some translations say a chair. So this chair was brought for her right. Jesus sits at the right hand of God the Father. So at his right hand is Jesus Christ. There's Yahweh, Jesus Christ, and then at Christ's right hand is the Blessed Mother. Here, of course, once upon a time, the king was David, and Bathsheba always sat at his right hand. Now, at this point, Solomon has become king, and now Bathsheba still sits at the right hand of the king. She asked him for a small favor. And what does Solomon say? Ask it, my mother, for I will not refuse you. I gotta highlight that. Like, ask it, mother, and I will not refuse you. That reminds me of when Jesus was at the wedding feast at Cana. Let's go to that verse. Of course, I got 3 Bibles on here. So when the wine failed, the mother of Jesus said to him, they have no wine. And Mary just made a statement. They have no wine. So there's an assumption here that something is going to happen. It may not be formulated as a question, of course, in the English translation, but I look at it like Mary is making a request to Jesus because she knows that he will not refuse her. Because Jesus says, oh woman, what have you to do with me? My hour has not come. I think this is Jesus's hesitation to actually begin his ministry, because he knows that if he does this miracle, the clock is ticking for him to get to the cross. And when we read further down in 1 Kings, it looks a little bit different because, again, Solomon winds up putting people to death. He winds up being a very wealthy man. Of course, he has all of this wisdom and all of these things, and he's in charge of doing all of these great buildings and stuff. He's a regular man. He's not Jesus. That's the problem here, because we know that Jesus is going to take things in a different light as king. He's not going to look for the flashy things. He's going to do things with a small amount of people in extraordinary ways. And I think that's something that we have to look at. But back to the mother-son relationship here. I think it's wildly overlooked because as Christians and as Catholics, we are priest, prophet, and king based on our baptism. And so uniquely, when the mother transfers the wisdom down to her son, it's important that the level of respect for the wisdom that the woman has to give to her son is unique in the way that it's not the same as the father-son relationship. It's not the same as the mother-daughter relationship. It's not the same as the father and the daughter relationship. It's unique because naturally the first son is the king. And that was an issue with Solomon and Adonijah. You know, we saw that. But he wasn't chosen.